Welcome to an episode of Assess and Caress on J.O's Garage. This is where you get automobiles from the Audrain Museum in Newport, Rhode Island. Reliable transportation brought them out to us. We're very grateful. Donald and I sort of debate, what are we doing here exactly? Is the value of these? What's happening?
Well, Jay, we've got two Porsches that look more or less alike, but have a substantial difference. And the theme here is hot rod or stock. What's your choice, and what does the market think? And in order to show that, we've got a 1956 Porsche 356, which has been transformed by Rod Emory and Emory Motorsports into an Outlaw, and a completely stock 1959 356 1600 normal.
And we're going to debate which is the more valuable?
No, what we're going to discuss,
Right.
because we can't have a debate because I'm always right,
Yeah.
what we're going to discuss is how the market looks at a modified car versus a stock car. And is there a real difference?
All right. All right, so which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with the stock car.
Okay.
This is a car which absolutely warms my heart. As you and practically everyone who will listen to me knows, my very first car was a 1963 Corvette Monza convertible.
Right.
My second car was almost a 356 coupe. I wanted one in the worst way. I always loved the shape of these cars, the design. I always loved that whole pre-war aerodynamic racing look that these cars had. And of course, the amazing build quality that are present in these cars, plus their reputation as being these race cars you could drive on the street.
Right.
And I always thought that these were really neat things, reading about them in the car magazines when I was a kid. And so I wanted to trade my Corvair in for this really beat 356B coupe, sunroof
Right.
coupe. And I was in college in Connecticut, and the dealer quite fortunately said, you know what, Donald, why don't you sell your Corvair and then come in and buy the Porsche, because he
Right.
didn't want to be bothered having my Corvair.
Right.
Thank God, because he saved me, because it was a real nonsense of a car with the typical sunroof that was closed with bathroom caulking and
Right,
to
right.
prevent the overt leaks, and doors that were just about to fall off the car, all of that. And this car, it just brings a smile to my heart, because this car is everything that that car was not. This is a car that is believed to be a two-owner car from new. It's been in the same family for more than 30 years. And it just has been repainted once in its life, very early on, probably before the mid-1970s. And it just has a wonderful, settled, loved look. Plus, these colors are just spectacular.
Yeah.
The black with the red interior, and these Rudge wheels, which were a very, very prized option. It's not quite sure whether these were equipped on the car when it was brand new, but it's certainly put on very early on in the car's life.
You know, it's interesting. I came to the Porsche party a little later because as a young man, as a teenager, 60 horsepower for more money than a Corvette with 350 horsepower didn't really make any sense, because when you're a kid, it's all about which one is faster. So although I appreciated these, I didn't really understand them. My brother got a Speedster, a 58 Speedster. He paid $800 for it. He fixed it up. He sold it for $1,200, and my father thought he was a genius. He says, you sold that for more money? How did you do it? He just couldn't believe that this foreign job, as my dad called them, would get any money at all. With 60 horsepower, it was slow. It was, especially compared to the amount of car. If you're buying cars by the pound, American cars were a tremendous value. You know, this was like filet mignon, that was hamburger, but you got more hamburger for the same money, you know. So it took me a while to really understand these and appreciate these. And now I really do. I have a coupe just like that. It's my dream one. It's got the Carrera 4-cam. It's really a fabulous car. It just drives like nothing else. It revs all day long. You can hold the tack at 7,000 and just keep your foot in it and go 110 or 115 all day long. It's quite a car. And this is fascinating because it's been in the same family, not since new, but pretty darn close.
Exactly. And one of the things that I also love about this car, and I think that it's certainly worth pointing out, again, a wonderfully well cared for California car from new. And when these cars were new, almost everyone put bumper overriders on to protect the bodywork.
Right.
Because you had to do it. It was an everyday car.
Right.
And so often when these cars are restored, the first thing you do is they rip them off, said, oh, these things are ugly, they're horrible. But they're an important part of the car's history.
Right.
It's about the character of this car and what it represented in the market. And I love seeing this car with those overriders on it. And it's also a matter of you mentioned the horsepower. 60 horsepower is not a lot of horsepower. Porsche made their name with the 356 as being a giant killer because it was about power to weight ratio.
Right.
There's a wonderful old film of an SCCA race at some airport track here in California. And it shows this guy in a Speedster having a battle with a guy in a 300 SL Gullwing. And you see as they come around lap after lap, the guy in the Speedster is using the rear fender of the Gullwing as his braking point. And you can see the dent on the back of the Gullwing and the dent on the front of the Speedster getting bigger and bigger lap after lap, because of course he gets them in the corners and then the Gullwing just pulls away on the straight, and then he catches them again in the corner because he brakes so late. And you know, that's the kind of thing you could do with a car like this. One of the things that's also interesting is the fact that I never understood why people built Outlaws until I drove a Carrera 2, and I thought, wow, this is the kind of power that this platform can handle. And it takes a certain kind of driver and enthusiast to appreciate one of these in stock form, because it's not about putting your foot down the accelerator as hard as you can and going as fast as you can and stamping on the brake at the next corner and stopping as quickly as you can. It's about momentum driving. It's about getting into a rhythm of driving that is as satisfying at speed limit as 45, 55 as it is at 90.
Right.
You know, and it's really something that I think is more appreciated today in some ways than ever before, but it took a while for that to happen. There was a time when people did not want to have anything to do with any 356 that was older than the 356C or an SC, because they thought, oh, these things are horrible to drive and they have no performance, and we have to do something to them to make them desirable.
Yeah, and as I've always said, Porsches are valuable but not rare. So you can get whatever you want. I mean, there are people who tell you, oh, you should never modify it. You should always keep it stock. Well, you can have both, and there's plenty. To me, I like it when I find a wreck 356. I wouldn't take a car like this and make an Outlaw out of it, because this represents what it was from new, and it's pretty close to that. Well, it is. It's exactly that. But you get a car that's of really no useful value as it sits, and you make it into what you want. That's what I love about Rod. And Rod being an engineer, and his family has been in the business. His grandfather started it, his father had it, he's got it now, he's passing it on to his kids. So there's a lot of history, you know. I think this will continue to appreciate, because at some point we're all not going to be here, and people talk about that guy 100 years ago, Rod Emory. He built the coolest Porsche, and they'll look up old articles and stories, and you know, kind of the way we do with Duesenberg and Bugatti and all those kind of things. So he's earned the reputation. So it's hard to say which one you would rather have.
One of the things that is so interesting about considering these two cars, and of course, one of the other things that regular devotees of this segment, of which there are millions, might also notice, gee, there's only two cars here instead of three.
Right.
But that was a very specific and deliberate choice so that we could have this direct comparison between two very similar and very different cars. And I think looking at what we've been talking about, what makes a stock 356 from the 1950s so attractive and so interesting a prospect to own and drive, really informs what it is that happens with the modified car from Emory.
Right.
And one of the things, again, I want to come back to this 59 car, because it demonstrates a cleanness of line, which you don't see. I love 356Bs, I love 356Cs, they're great, but they don't have this sort of essential nature. I love the pre-As most of all, but you know, again, it's a very, very different driving experience, again, compared to this. This is probably the first of the pre-B cars you could really use every day in traffic and not worry about it in terms of performance.
And when you realize this is the same year as the '59 Cadillac, remember, with the big fins. I mean, that was America. There couldn't be more different in style, in every category. It was just so different. People just didn't get this. Like my dad, it's a foreign job. You can't get parts for him, you know. Yeah, just hilarious.
They did a great job in marketing these cars. Again, the genius of Max Hoffman, who really understood how to connect these cars to an American public that otherwise wouldn't understand them, was all through competition. And really making sure that the Porsche ads of this time are all focused on the fact that Porsche was out winning in very big competition, and they made sure there were enough cars in the hands of amateur racers in the US so that people, whether you lived in the East Coast, West Coast, or the Midwest, if you went to a race on a weekend or read about a race on the weekend in Competition Press or Auto Week or whatever, you heard about people driving Porsche 356s.
Right.
And you could have a car that just won the race last weekend, as your car. They could actually carry even your kids around because they had the little pop-up seats in the back.
Also, you got to remember, you're selling this car mostly to men who fought in World War II. So this is a German car when just 10 years earlier, we were fighting for our lives. So it was a hard sell for a lot of Americans, patriotic Americans, you know, for whatever reason. It doesn't always make sense, but I get why somebody would be turned off by it, you know.
The triumph of the quality of the product and the integrity of what they were trying to do with this car,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah. It shows you the car had to be even better than it was just to overcome the innate prejudice of the era. You know, you got wounded as a GI and you're carrying that wound the rest of your life, and now you're buying a car built by one of the guys who was shooting at you. You know, I mean, it was very involved, very involved.
Indeed, and that's another thing I want to come back to, which you mentioned about the quality of the car. And this is another thing which really excites me about this particular example, is the fact that these cars were built to an extremely high standard and very, very carefully. And this car, which has never been apart for restoration, shows that. You look at the shut lines of the doors and the deck lids. It's absolutely amazing. It's as if somebody's taken a line and drawn it through. Black paint is very unforgiving.
Yeah.
This is an older paint. You can still see a little bit of hazing in the paint from when it was cleaned before it was sprayed. This was not a restoration, so they roughed up the paint and they painted it in the original way that they would have. And so you get a little bit of that. And again, it all adds to the character of the car and its originality, which I think is so important today, especially.
Yeah, the fun thing about these two is you see the guys that have all the original cardboard tags that came on the radio, and it's half German and half English, and the writing just looks like the period. It's usually a dull green with a tan. Yeah, you collect all of that, so it's fun. I like the stock. The older I get, the more I like the stock stuff, just to go back. But then you drive something like this and you realize, oh yeah, this is pretty good too.
Well, again, so let's now talk about this Rod Emory Outlaw. One of the things that really sets the work that Emory Motorsports apart from all of the rest of these is the fact that they are, first and foremost, restorers.
Right.
They can do a stock restoration of a 356 that is the equal of any shop in the world. So they take that attitude of respect for how the cars are built and for the components and put that into the modification. These are not LS swaps. You know, all of the parts that they use are Porsche parts or development of a Porsche part. So it is something that if the factory had sort of a side arm doing this kind of thing, you could see that they could produce something like what they do at Emory Motorsports. And this example, we saw in the original car, the 1600 normal, which has 60 horsepower. This car also has 60 horsepower plus 200.
Right.
So it's 260 horsepower in a really interesting engine, which is a 2.6 liter four-cylinder version of the 3.6 liter 911 flat six.
So they cut two cylinders off.
Cut two cylinders off, and it's an amazing thing because it gives you that whole, you and I are both fans of the 912. And as many people don't remember, the reason for the 912 is the fact that when they introduced the 911, a lot of the Porsche purists were up in arms. How could you get rid of our beloved car? This isn't what we want, this ridiculous six-cylinder engine and all this. And so they came up with the 911, which was the 901, 911 body shell with the 356 SC engine in it. The idea of what I was saying before about the power that's in your Carrera 2, the fact that this chassis, just out of the factory, could handle that, Emory then takes it to the next step. So it's just not adding the power, because it's a complete package. They look at the wheels, the suspension, how everything is put together to make sure that it can not only handle that power, but handle it in a way that is true to a Porsche.
And the name Outlaw, they coined as well, the Emory family. They were sort of shunned at Porsche meets when they'd show up.
They were parked over there.
That's kind of what it was. People didn't like the fact that you modified these. But then the level of the work was so good, and the cars were more efficient and faster and could stop better, and people thought, oh, maybe that's not so bad, you know. And now, of course, he's an esteemed guy in the Porsche world and welcome to the factory and saved a lot of cars, actually.
Exactly, and to your point about the fact that they built lots and lots and lots of these cars. This is a 1956, and a lot of these cars, while they were very well built, Also, they did have a tendency, if they were not taken care of, especially if the paint faded and rust got into them, they rusted very well, very efficiently. And so most of the cars that Emory uses for their builds are cars that people would not economically restore to stock condition.
Right. That's what I like about them.
Yeah.
They have respect for, and they only start with something that is beyond redemption, basically. Yeah, yeah.
And so they also, again, knowing their Porsche history, they did the restoration quite famously of the first Porsche to win at Le Mans, which is an amazing car that had lived a very long and active life racing in California. It was a coupe, but they had cut the top off to make it more comfortable in California racing. And they restored this car to its original Le Mans specification. It's an amazing thing. So, you know, taking from the races things like the filler cap, the exposed filler cap, and the straps to hold down the front deck, and just sort of, you know, cleaning it up. Although, you know, again, with the 1956, there's not a lot of cleaning you have to do on the body. But again, they have a very strong aesthetic sense for that purity of design that you see in the early Porsches, and adding things like the speedster seats, and really sort of bringing it all together. I had the opportunity to drive this car fairly extensively, and it was very interesting to me because I thought at the end of the day, it didn't feel like a typical 356, but it felt very much of a piece. It was its own item. And again, it's something that as people turn more and more to experiential ownership, people want to use something, to your point about a car that they can get into and drive the way they're used to driving their more modern cars, but with much more character. And so therefore, it really fits that. And in a way that's much more thoughtful than a lot of sort of very quickly built, even expensively built, Restomods that you see that just sort of add power, big wheels, you know, whatever it might be.
Well, everybody goes nuts for Singer, but actually Rod was there first doing this kind of work, which kind of led to Singer, because even Porsche does not kind of acknowledge, I think they do now, but it's sort of, they couldn't call it, it's reimagined, you know, you can't, couldn't call it a Porsche, a Singer Porsche. You know, so Rod was really doing this almost before anybody.
It's fascinating to visit Rod's shop because you see stacked, as in a supermarket, all of the body shells that
I
they
was
have.
amazed at how many body shells he had.
Absolutely astonishing, and it also shows you, again, the quality of what they start with. It's an astonishing thing, and all of these cars are unique. There is no such thing as a production Emory Outlaw. Each owner who commissions a car specifies it to his or her own desires and then works with Rod to come up with that car. And one of the other things that I really respect about what it is that they do is that they have an idea of how a package will work. So I could come in with a bucket load of cash and say, I want something with 14 cylinders and 19-inch wheels, and they say, thank you very much. I think the people that you want to deal with are slightly down the road. It's not us.
Well, the thing is, these are extremely expensive to do because that's what it costs to do them. I don't know any restorers that get rich. They make a living, but they don't get rich because to do it right, that's what it takes. The amount to do metal work, the hours and hours, there must be 4,000 hours in this thing, something like that. So even at $100 an hour, you know, I mean, it's a crazy amount of money, but you're getting something that's done right and done properly. The horror stories of friends that have sent cars off to some shop and the shop goes bankrupt or the guy sells off the, you know what I'm saying? So you're getting almost, well, I think factory quality work.
There are different ways to enjoy Porsches as there are different ways to enjoy other cars. And there are some that are really detailed about the restoration, about the size of the square weave and the carpet and the right rubber for the doors and the correct pattern on the beehive taillights. And those are things that Rod Emory's shop pays attention to, but also doing the things that you want to have in your car. Obviously, with the kind of workmanship that goes into a car like this, it takes a long time to build one. And getting back to our original premise about what makes a car interesting and how the market responds to it, this is a car which is, in effect, a new build. So it's not as if we're saying, well, this is what a 1956 356 would have sold for 5 years ago, and this is what it would sell for today. It is what an Emory Outlaw based on the 1956 356 would have sold for 5 years ago and what it would sell for now, because you have to factor in another aspect, which is the fact that you have a choice. You can either buy one that's already built, or you can put yourself at the end of the waiting list to get one.
And there'll never be 900 of these.
There'll never be another one just like this.
Right. But what I mean is, it's a small shop. Everybody is working on your car. When that's finished in 2 years, they work on the next car. So it's not like there's thousands of them out there. And plus, I think they will continue to go up in value because the reputation precedes them. People, it's an Emory. Okay, that's if this was a Johnson, Johnson, who's Johnson? But yeah, I mean,
one of those Leno built Porsches.
Exactly.
It's dying to have one of those.
Exactly.
So let's recap, and then you can give me what your opinion is on, remember,
this is so annoying,
the percentage of appreciation in the last 5 years between these two cars. Let's take another look at them.
All right.
So we have here a 1956 Porsche 356 Emory Outlaw and a 1959 356 1600 normal. What are your thoughts on the appreciation?
Well, it's interesting. Both these are very rare. This is the only one like this that'll be built. And this is a basically two-owner car from new. History is, provenance on it is impeccable. You know everything that's happened to it, where it's been. The next owner, hopefully there won't be one for quite a while, or maybe it'll stay in the family, I don't know. But boy, it's hard to say. It's hard to say which has depreciated more, do you think?
Which has appreciated more.
These
cars are appreciating assets.
Well, it's interesting because I've seen 356s have leveled off quite a bit. The real enthusiasts who grew up with them are my age or older. I'm on the younger end of that scale. So a lot of those guys, they're passing it on. And their offspring don't want 60 horsepower cars. I mean, we live in an era of 1,000 horsepower Corvettes and Teslas. So the idea of 60 horsepower to a new person might seem really odd. I don't know. I think this one might appreciate more because it has the best of both worlds. It is a classic look with modern underpinnings, modern brakes. It's safer, it's faster, it's more efficient. I would go this one first and then this one. But then, as an original, there's somebody looking for this car. For all the people that really aren't interested in that, there's enough guys that have to have it because it's a two-owner car. So it's a real conundrum. I'm not sure, but I'll go with the Rod Emory because I know what it is. I know what it represents. This is the one I would want to drive because I wouldn't be lagging behind all my friends in a rally. You'd be keeping right up with them with this thing. And it's modern, but it has the classic look. I mean, it is an outlaw, and I know the person who built it. To me, it's a bit like knowing Ferdinand Porsche or Ferry Porsche, or having a relation, because Rod, you spoke to the guy who built it. They signed the work. It's kind of cool to have. When I had my cars, my Ford GT and my Viper, I had everybody at the factory who worked on it sign under the hood. And to this day, I get the offspring of those. My dad passed away 3 years ago, but 25 years ago, he built your Viper, and they come and they want to see the name and take a picture. So I think that will continue with this. So I'll go with this one as the more appreciating one. You have that smug look with the Mary Kay pants on. Are these Mary Kay? I'm curious.
No, they are Kay Mary.
Oh, Kay Mary.
Well, between these two cars,
yes,
it's actually quite close, interestingly enough. But I'm very, very happy that we didn't get bogged down in the usual thing of which car is more valuable.
Right.
Certainly, the Emory is a more valuable car. 5 years ago, to commission a car like this probably would have cost you about $500,000. Today, if you wanted to buy this one, it would cost you about $650,000.
Oh, I think probably even more than that, because we live in an era now, the poor get poorer and the richer get richer. You have billionaires now that can buy this kind of thing, and they compete with one another. So these sometimes will go, you see it goes into the stratosphere all the time. You got 2 billionaires throwing silver dollars into the ocean. Who can throw the most, okay? So I think this will I think I would value it way more than 650. I've
Well,
seen,
the
I've seen
reason why
$800.
the value of 650 came from me is because you're absolutely correct, except for the fact that these are, remember, built to spec. So someone who wants a different spec will be willing to pay more. This is a fairly mild spec for today's standards, as you say, when people are really crazy about power, etc. And this is a very subtle car as well, which might not appeal to everyone. To me, this is one of the most appealing cars of its type you could have because it is so quiet in what it does. It does what it does in a very quiet manner.
Plus, you buy this, you can still send it to Rod Emory and say, listen, I like a little more horsepower. I'd like the Rudge wheels. Can I get this? Can I get that? Could I have the original hood? And he'll do that for you. So it's a car that's in a constant state of flux. It can keep being modified and modified by the original person who did it.
Right.
So that makes it valuable as well.
And our 1959.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago, a car like this would have probably been about $125,000. Now it would be $165,000 because, again, it's very rare to find cars with very few owners with...
Well, see, I think you're undervaluing me because I found a 1959 Porsche 4-cam. And I was going to buy it, and I said, no, this is Seinfeld's dream car. Let me call Jerry. Because I already had mine. I didn't need another one, although
Well,
this
you
one,
have two Miuras,
well,
so...
that's true, that's true. And I think it was $1 million.
Ah, yes.
It was this car, except with the 4-cam engine.
And
same color, same everything.
And this is one of those places where, again, the market is very, very, very specific. This is a normal. If it were a super,
Right.
a 90 horsepower car it would be much more valuable.
Yeah, but that's like you. You appear to be a normal, but obviously you're not.
I'm a super.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The interesting thing is that the level of appreciation in both these cars is almost identical.
Okay.
And it's something that, frankly, would surprise a lot of people because they would simply assume that it would be the Emory, that people wouldn't be interested in a 60 horsepower 1959 Porsche. But again, interest in the cars as they existed and examples which have not been modified, examples have been cared for well throughout their lives, and especially in a very appealing spec like this,
Right.
really bring it to the top.
Well, that's what I said also. You know, a while back we did that barn find out of the Rudy Klein auction. A guy paid $10 million or $9.9 million for an alloy gull wing missing parts and had been sitting in the field, and it needs everything, but because they had to have it. And somebody has to have this because there can't be many like this. 2 owners in the last 70 years.
I would love to have this car. In fact, I just spoke to the owner and I said, it's a shame that they left the keys with the car, and that I hope that he and his family have enjoyed it for a very long time,
Right.
because I'm just driving home in it.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's great.
But
It's great.
not that anyone can try and find me, however, I don't have the car with me.
I think
really
you just put, African American, pink pants. Yeah.
Black
Thank you,
Porsche
officer.
ethic.
Thank you,
Exactly.
officer. Yeah. Let us know when you see him.
So I think it's a great example and a wonderful example for me of the fact that the market rewards both these cars for their intrinsic qualities. Each is very different, but has so much appeal in its own way, and I think that's a wonderful thing that the market sees that.
All right. So which one is it?
The
This one?
59, but by 2 percentage points. They're equal.
Yeah, the equal. All right. There we go.